5 weekends into the college baseball season, Kyle Schassburger and David Kahn are back with you on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. We're here in 3D at Kyle Schass at SportsCon4 is where you can find us on Twitter, on X. You're listening to us on Thursday if you're getting into the pod because we got to let the basketball content breathe a little bit on Tuesday and Wednesday. Pods dropping with Stephen Hartzell and Matt Norlander, as well as Megan Gower and our very own Rob Joyce. So if you need a men's basketball and women's basketball fix, you'll have that in your feed ahead of our drop on Thursday. Con and I are coming to you on Tuesday, though. Normal recording time. David, you know what that means. The bracket is out. So we will be filling out our bracket as this show goes on over the next 45 minutes or so. We'll talk college baseball. I just started. You started it.
I just started right now.
Okay. So do I need to make are you starting in the East Quadrant? Let's make sure we've got that. Okay.
Yes. As you talk, I'm going to fill it out, and as I talk, you can fill it out. There we go.
Okay. So this is a tradition unlike any other. We will manufacture our brackets, create, some goodness, some exquisite college basketball intel through this sheet of paper right here that you can hear, because we have a 68-team bracket. I do have one of the first 4 teams advancing, as I normally do. That's common stance. So we'll get into some of the details, but we're here to talk baseball more than anything. Some of our gripes as well from the weekend, a scintillating weekend, not just on the diamond, but personally as well. I was able to catch up with you on Saturday. It was St. Patty's Day on Sunday. It was an insane, busy, bountiful, super rewarding weekend, and it certainly was for some of the top teams in college baseball as well. So we've got 4 new teams in the top 25. 4 have exited. Arkansas remains the number 1 team in the land. And we should note, Con, you and I are both on assignment this weekend. So as we talk through the weekend that was, the 5th weekend of the college baseball season, SEC play has been underway. Now we got 1 weekend behind us, 2nd weekend coming up. You're heading to Big 12 country. You're going to Norman this weekend to cover a West Virginia team again, which you are very connected to, who just gave up 26 runs to a 10-8 Ohio State team. So you'll be covering the Mountaineers and Sooners, whereas I will be on the Plains.
Yeah.
Top-ranked Arkansas and number 23 Auburn, a Thursday through Saturday series. So I'm hitting the road tomorrow, as are you. So exciting stuff, man. We're in the trenches. We're both in it this weekend.
Bro, let's go. It is officially college baseball season. You know it when both of us are on assignment and ready to rip out some baseball calls again for our loyal listeners. So I'm very excited. West Virginia is starting to get healthier. They had a rough series against Ohio State, no doubt about it. The 26 runs, the most they've ever given up at home, well, tied for the most they've ever given up at home in a single game. So that was rough, but hopefully they've learned from that. They've got a game against Marshall tomorrow to get right before they go to Big 12 country. Oklahoma, really hot team, a couple of really solid players that I'm excited to see. Never been to the great state of Oklahoma. This will be state number 28 in the United States of America that I will be planting my feet in this weekend. So very excited about that. Already have some food recommendations. I know that I sent you one for your trip to Auburn, Alabama, and our former colleague Jack Condon, I'm sure, will supply you with plenty others for your trip to the Plains.
Yes, you have given me Mama Goldberg's Deli. I have also heard from the voice of the UAB Blazers, David Crane. He says he suggested the Hound, which also has a wall of bourbon. So I will partake in that. And it might be Friday night because there's about a 100% chance of rain all day on Friday. So I don't know how this thing is going to get moved around. We will get Thursday night in, but I have a feeling there might not be any baseball on Friday. And you got to get 2 in then on Saturday because you can't play into Sunday with the series scheduled Thursday through Saturday. So
didn't you do a doubleheader last year in Baton Rouge? Didn't that happen to you?
Yeah, I had 1 day without baseball also. Let's see. They wiped out.
And I had one this past week or 2 weekends ago in West Virginia.
Yes, when I covered the top 5 series between Arkansas and LSU and Baton Rouge last year. And again, you can hear all these games. If you want to listen to your boys, okay, throughout the weekend, Con and Norman, I'll be at Auburn on the Plains. The Varsity Network App is the best way to do so. You can get all your March Madness coverage too, men's, women's basketball. We've got the simulcast, if you will, where you can dip into the Westwood One broadcast, but also the team-specific broadcasts throughout the NCAA tournament over the next few weeks. There's some NIT, WBIT, all this, all these ancillary tournaments that are going on in conjunction with college baseball, which still remains front and center for us. So we'll have the dudes, hat tips, social displays of affection. We'll get into the Power 10, and we'll kind of segue into the Power 10 as we talk about some of the low-hanging fruit from this past weekend. And Con, Florida State remains unbeaten. I don't think they're going to lose a game, okay? This is my surefire lock. Link Jarrett and Florida State are not going to lose a game this year, okay? Go ahead and crown them. Crown them right now. They're going to Omaha. The Noles are back. My goodness, Florida State baseball, 18-0, 3-0 start in conference play. They just swept Notre Dame this past weekend, and I don't believe they're going to lose a game the rest of the season. Wake Forest, though, the preseason number, and Wake, what is Florida State in the poll this week? What have they
number 12? Number 12.
Okay, so they have jumped to number 12 in the poll, the only unbeaten team. Texas A&M lost in the midweek or over the weekend to Florida. The Gators won the rubber game on Sunday. Jack Caglione wasn't his best on the mound, but he was efficient enough. 7 strikeouts over 5 1/3. It was the closest thing to a pitching duel that we had all weekend because it was highly offensive over the first couple of games. But, Florida maintains their standing. Texas A&M previously was unbeaten entering the week. But Florida State remains the only unbeaten team. Let's pivot, though, and talk about Wake Forest right off the top because Chase Burns is all they got. Kahn.
Yep.
It's all they got. What is going on in Deep Town? The preseason unanimous number 1 team in the country is reeling. They drop another series. That's back-to-back weekends to begin ACC play, this time to Virginia.
I mean, here's the thing. We don't really know what the deal is with the back of their starting rotation, right? Because they started with Michael Massey. That has worked somewhat, kind of, I think is the best way you can say it. And then they started Hayden LeFew actually on Sunday. They put their freshman, who'd been their midweek guy, into the starting rotation on Sunday against Virginia. And, varying results there. I mean, the thing with Wake Forest is Nick Kurtz is out. He hurt his shoulder in some regard, apparently in the opener against Virginia on Friday. And he is out at least 3 to 4 weeks. So the injuries continue to mount up for this Wake Forest team that isn't getting any healthier because they're still missing guys like Roland, Chase Walter, Joe Areola, and now they're going to miss they're arguably their best hitter coming into the year in Nick Kurtz. So the offense is lacking in a team that lacked offensive firepower coming into the season. Now, we've seen guys like the transfer Adam Tellier, Seaver King, Jack Winay really come on strong and have a really fantastic year so far this year so far for Wake. But when you're missing that leader, that presence in Nick Kurtz on the field, and you're not getting the production you need from Josh Hartle, especially on the road in ACC series what happened in Virginia this past weekend, it's tough to kind of bring this group together and make them as cohesive of a unit as Tom Walter wants them to be. I'm not necessarily worried about Wake Forest, and it's solely because they have time to get healthy. I think this team, the way their schedule's built, they can create enough of a resume to, I don't want to say backdoor their way into the postseason because I think that's not giving Wake Forest enough credit as good of a team as they are or can be. But I still think if they get everybody healthy by April and, mid-April, maybe, early May, if that, but I think by mid-April they should have everybody back. Nick Kurtz notwithstanding, I'm not sure how long he'll be out for. Because Tom Walter said at least 3 to 4 weeks. But if they can get everybody back healthy by mid-April, they can go on a run and they can easily make the postseason. And then if they're healthy and firing on all cylinders at the right time, I mean, they have as good of a rotation as anybody in the country as long as Hartle's on his game and Chase Burns continues to be what he is right now, which is the best pitcher in the country. So I'm not worried about Wake Forest yet. They're certainly in a bad position right now, but they need to try and kind of middle this stretch without Nick Kurtz and the rest of their relievers until they get everybody healthy and can try and go on a run, especially because Kurtz will be rested. And so will all these relievers as they come back. They haven't pitched all year. You got to remember that factor as well.
I have finished the right side of my bracket while you were speaking there. Or left side of the bracket, the East and West region. I've got UConn coming out of the East, and I've got Alabama coming out of the West. So that is one of my 2 national semifinals, UConn and Alabama to the Final Four.
Okay. East and South are done for me. UConn and Houston. 2 1 seeds so far.
Yep. Any notable Josh Hartle, by the way? What are we doing? 13, what is it? 5. He's given up 13 runs.
Yep.
Okay. Over his last couple of outings, he's only gone like 5 1/3. 5 1/3. 13 runs.
He's having a rough time, man. His ERA is over 6. He's nearly given up as many runs as he struck people out. And like we talked to Josh Hartle before the season, he's not a strikeout guy, right? So like, but he had 140 Ks last year. That guy might not break. I mean, the way he's striking out people right now, he might not break 100. So I'm a little concerned about Hartle. I'm very concerned about Massey. We'll see if Hayden LeFew can kind of, work his way into the Sunday starter role. But his ERA is 6.75. Massey's ERA is not bad, but I haven't seen the like blow away Sunday stuff that everybody's like, oh, he's ready to be the Sunday guy. I haven't seen it yet. So we'll see what happens. Tom Walters certainly has a question at the back end of that starting rotation, but Hartle's the bigger concern for sure.
So Wake Forest 13-6 overall after a 1-3 week. They tumbled from 7, where they were following the losing 2 out of 3 to Duke at home. 13-6 now, 1-3 following the series loss to Virginia. They fall to number 16 in the top 25 polls. Lost 16-10 on Friday in Charlottesville. Won the middle game 9-3. Chase Burns again, ACC Pitcher of the Week for the second consecutive week, and then 11-10 they lost on Sunday. So that's giving up, in their 2 losses, they gave up 26 runs. Then you tack on the 3, that's 29 across 3 games, with 26 runs they gave up in 2 losses this past weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Here's the thing. If you have a team like Wake Forest, and we talked about this with Arkansas, if you have a team like Wake Forest who is going to rely on their pitching, and they said they were before the season started because they lost guys like Brock Wilken, Tommy Hawk, and guys like that who provided a lot of offensive firepower last year, and now you're without Nick Kurtz, you need your pitching to be on point. And besides Chase Burns, they haven't been. So Arkansas on the other side, their pitching's been excellent, and their offense has done enough. They're still averaging more than 8 runs a game, and Wake Forest simply is not. So Wake Forest isn't built to win games 11-9 and 12-10. Arkansas could be, and that's the pure difference right there.
Any notable upsets across the East and South regions for you? Top half of your bracket is done.
Yes, absolutely. So I have 2 upsets in the East region. I have Morehead State beating Illinois.
Come on, bro. ILL.
Yeah, Morehead State taking them out.
Don't do it to me, man.
And then I have Drake taking out Washington State. That's all I've got on the East. In the South, I have NC State making it to the Sweet 16, taking out Texas Tech and then Kentucky. And then I've got James Madison over Wisconsin in the 5-12 before they lose to Duke.
Okay, I have completed my South region as well. So comparatively,
oh, wow.
I have Houston losing to Duke. So I have Duke moving into what would be the Elite 8 and knocking off Kentucky to get to the Final Four. All right.
Okay.
So I've got Kentucky moving through the bottom portion of that South region. Notable upsets. I got Texas Tech over NC State. My goodness. How about the Wolfpack winning 5 games in 5 days? Knock off Duke in the quarterfinal round. Knock off their in-state rival, their biggest rival in UNC, to win that title. JMU, I do have sliding past Wisconsin, falling to Duke. Houston going down to the Blue Devils. My major upsets, though, are out of the – and I love how you bring up Morehead and Illinois, because Punch did a bracket as well, and I have it.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay,
great.
She did a bracket as well, and her handwriting is just, it's phenomenal. I love it so much. And the abbreviations that she uses, because I tried to teach her a little bit about abbreviations and kind of the art and creativity behind it, and the practice of coming up with a good abbreviation and moving through your bracket, like Arizona, Zona. If Xavier was in the tournament, you just put X. For Gonzaga, I like to do Zax. For example, for Bama, I put Bama. She actually put Bama. She has Bama making a deep run, but falling to Arizona in what is that? The Elite 8, where I have Bama going. But she has Howard or Wagner taking down North Carolina, which I love. It just makes my heart just sing. I love it. And she put H/W is how she abbreviated it as well. She used the same / or backslash, what I don't know which it is, that you see on your bracket. So not only does she have top-seeded North Carolina going down, good on her. It's only happened twice before. Last year, Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue, and then a couple years back, obviously,
UMBC.
Virginia, falling to UMBC. She also has mighty Longwood, the Longwood Lancers. Wow. I'm trying to guess. Lancers over Houston.
No, that's not going to happen. Sorry, Pudge.
Yeah, no. She's got 2 number 1s going down. So, yes, I've got East and South complete. I'll wait for you to complete your West, and I'll continue.
I'm done.
West
My bracket is now done.
Okay, well, we'll come back to it. Let's talk more baseball. Okay, so we've hit on Wake Forest. Who do they got this weekend? Louisville. So they return back home to the boombox of the couch. They'll have Louisville for a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday series. We'll see if a team that is trending in the wrong direction can get that train back on the tracks. They'll have to do so without Nick Kurtz for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Can we talk a little bit about RPI and DSR? The Diamond Sports ranking. My understanding is, I haven't seen it. I've refreshed at the time of recording. It's not yet here, but it's going to be unveiled at some point later today. Again, you're listening to the podcast on Thursday. So we don't have access right now at the time of recording, but we're going to get a fresh set of eyes on this new Diamond Sports ranking that 643 Charts has come up with and whipped together, that D1Baseball.com is going to adopt and put on their gritty reports and their ranking reports. Currently, if you look at the RPI, probably not a big surprise. It's Clemson at 1 at 17-2, Arkansas at 2, Florida State's there at 3, Nebraska 4, and Oklahoma, who you'll see is the 5th best RPI team in the land. How different might that be? We'll see with the DSR. But you're excited for this.
I'm very excited for this, and here's the thing. We've talked about, as we've built our Power 10s these first 4 weeks and now 5 weeks, as we have another one coming for you today in the college baseball season, that we've talked about how some of these teams that are in our Power 10, we don't want to move up more than they are because they haven't played anybody. Well, that's getting impacted by the RPI, but I want to see how that varies to the DSR, because DSR gives you points for winning no matter what, but it doesn't give you as much points if you're favored more over that team to win because that team isn't as good. So I'm curious to see how much our Power 10 matches up to the DSR versus the RPI, because right now, none of us have Nebraska in our Power 10, okay? No. Like looking at the RPI, I don't have Clemson in my Power 10. I don't have Nebraska in my Power 10. I don't have Oklahoma, UCF, James Madison, or Notre Dame in my Power 10. Those are the top 10 in the RPI right now. So I'm very curious to see how that compares to the Diamond Sports ranking, who says, like, okay, at the time that each of these games were played, here's how they were valued, and here's what you got at that specific time. And I'm curious to see all the charts that our friends at 643 Charts have put together, the graphs that are going to be unveiled about how teams move up and down throughout the season. It's a really fun metric. We had Forrest Allen on to explain it in great detail earlier this season. So if you missed that conversation, go back in our feed a few weeks. Forrest Allen, the data scientist for 643 Charts, was there. Go to 643 Charts website. They've got all the information out there that you need on the DSR, but I can't wait for it to come out. It is not out yet. It is coming out on Tuesday as we record today. So when you hear this on Thursday, good news for you. Christmas came early. It's already on the website. So go to D1 Baseball, 643 Charts, and find it there and take a gander. I certainly will be looking for it today on Tuesday.
Yeah, so we'll have more fodder on next week's podcast. Reminder, our recording schedule here through the rest of college basketball season, still just one podcast a week, normally dropping on Tuesday. Again, you're getting this in your feed on Thursday on the heels of a couple of basketball pods on the men's and women's side. So we'll try to unpack more of the first DSR and, maybe have some more intel and, some strong feelings about it and its first release and how it impacts the game and how we judge some of these teams. It's supposed to be revolutionary. We spent a lot of time, talking about it. This isn't an adopted metric by the NCAA, but this is going to be an experiment, if you will, certainly spearheaded by the D1 Baseball guys in 643 Charts. You don't have Clemson in your Power 10. Can we use that as a springboard now to talk Power 10? Because they are my third team.
Wow.
Okay? They just took 2 out of 3 from Duke. Let's not forget Duke took 2 out of 3 from Wake. Now, how good is Wake? They're hurting. They're not 100%. We're worried about their pitching. But Clemson went to Durham at the Coombs, the on-campus field, and took 2 out of 3. Jordan Santucci was himself for the Blue Devils, the only game that Duke was able to win. But Clemson getting to 17-2, the number 1 RPI team, 15-1 out of conference, playing their first true road series this past weekend. They're 2-1 against RPI teams inside the top 25. If you look at the top 50, they are 9-2. So that's 9 wins. Arkansas has 10 wins against top RPI 50 teams. They're slated second. But I've got the Tigers at 3 behind, of course, Arkansas at 1. It's hard to argue. You got the Hogs at 1, right?
Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, easy. Yep.
17-2, 13 consecutive wins. Swept Missouri this past weekend at Baum Walker, going on the road now this weekend to take on Auburn. And how about the pitching? the offense came around. The pitching is continuing to do its thing. Hagen Smith, I think it was 11 Ks in game one the other night. But if you look in totality across the weekend, they allowed just one run. Just one run. They allowed just 21 base runners for Missouri all the weekend. 37 strikeouts in total in 27 innings. Arkansas, number one nationally in ERA. Fewest hits allowed. Fewest base runners allowed. Ks per 9. I mean, Hagen Smith is like hovering around 19.5 in terms of strikeouts per 9 innings. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And Mason Molina is right there as well. Like, he's not far behind. Brady Tiger still struggling with control a little bit. Okay, he's your middle guy. He's your Saturday or what would be anticipated to be a Friday game, but I don't think we're going to play baseball on Friday. He's hit 9 batters this year, Brady Tiger. Okay, he's hit 9. However, he is still efficient beyond that. He's been able to overcome that. A lot of it's with breaking balls. Again, he's working back from an injury that really affected, his play last year. But my God, 23-1, they outscored Mizzou this weekend. 22-7 in total hits, 8-0, 6-0, and 9-1. It took until the 25th inning that Mizzou even scored. That's when the big tuna, Colin Fisher, the freshman, came in. First pitch he threw was a home run. But 7 total home runs for the Hogs on the weekend. And Kahn, I'll leave it to you here. I'll lob it back for you. This Arkansas team is the bottom, still after this weekend. They're the bottom third in the SEC in batting average. Yeah, they had a good weekend, but they're still the bottom third.
We've talked about this. This is not the, hang 'em and bang 'em Arkansas Razorbacks that we are used to seeing. This is a pitching-built Arkansas team, which I kind of think Dave Van Horn likes. Don't tell anybody. But this is a pitching-first Arkansas team. And I have always been a proponent that pitching wins championships. Always been a proponent of that in college baseball, especially because if you don't have a stacked rotation, 1, 2, 3, and a bona fide closer like I think Arkansas does, or if you do have that, I should say, you're impossible to beat. Like, impossible. You have to have someone have a bad day. And Arkansas really doesn't have people that have bad days. They really don't. So Hagen Smith, you mentioned the numbers. He's sensational. Arkansas leads the nation in strikeouts at 255. Hagen Smith has basically been not touched, an ERA of like 1.57. They still lead the country in ERA. They are insanely good from top to bottom in their rotation, in their bullpen, etc. And the hitting's done enough. That's the thing. If you have as good of a pitching staff as Arkansas does, all you need is for your lineup to do enough. And they've done enough. That's what people said Wake Forest was going to do this year because their pitching staff was the best in the country. And they said, the offense will be fine. It'll do enough. Nick Kurtz told us they'll win games with 3 runs and 4 runs. Not the case. Arkansas, I think, can win a lot of 3-run, 4-run offensive output games because their pitching's that good.
And they had the runs were there, the home runs were there this past weekend. Could this be a sign of things to come? Could the offense be rounding into form? I agree with you. Pitching, number one, that's the priority. I think DVH is extremely happy, elated with how the season is unfolding to this point because he knows the offense is going to catch up at some point. There's a lot of new faces in that lineup. Vahiva Aloy, the transfer who came in from Sac State, he had, I think, the middle bomb when Arkansas went back to back to back in game 2. Once they got into the Missouri bullpen on Saturday, it was Stovall who returned this weekend from a broken foot. He went 4 for 10. He had a double. He had a home run. He had 2 RBIs, scored 4 runs, had 2 walks, got hit by a pitch. You've got him now leading off and hopefully being able to remain healthy. I mean, that's just going to change the entire complexion of this team as well. His leadership, his veteran presence, and we'll see. I think that batting average is going to start to tick up quite a bit, and they're going to Auburn this weekend at Plainsman Park, which is a very small, intimate type setting. 4,096 that place seats. I love it because it's indicative of a lot of like old school type ballparks. You got the Green Monster, the War Eagle Wall, and left. Like it's going to be tight confines, and I think the way Auburn performed in Nashville this past weekend, they got their butts handed to them. All right, and that Vanderbilt offense. And if we look ahead in the Power 10, I got Vandy at 4. So Arkansas 1, Oregon State 2, 17-2, Clemson 17-2, Vanderbilt at 18-3. I mean, they're in the midst of an offensive explosion, and they absolutely handed it to the Tigers this past weekend. I think Arkansas can exploit that. Just to close the loop on Arkansas in my early prep stages, and you're going to love this. So they subscribe to what's called Gorilla Ball. And we have yet to really see it shape until this past weekend at home against Mizzou with the home runs and the bombs. But what they do, you talk about props, I've got to see if I can get my hands on 2 items. They have a gorilla mask in the dugout. Somebody hits a home run, they get the gorilla mask on. And then they also have about an 18-inch tall, 1.5 foot, toy figurine gorilla. You know where that thing would look great? In
Your
my
office?
cubicle. Yes.
Yeah.
Right alongside the bronze statue standing a foot, maybe a little taller, and then my smaller figurine. If there's one man, okay, on this planet who can, with all of the conviction, say that a gorilla is his spirit animal, it is this guy right here, Kyle Schassburger. And I'm going to be up close and personal with a team that embraces the gorilla mantra more than anybody in this country. So you've got a gorilla mask, you've got a gorilla figurine, which is given out to the most outstanding player after each game as a position player. So they hand that 18-inch tall toy gorilla to a positional player after each game. And it's in their safekeeping, depending on their offensive performance. So gorilla ball, it's going to be in action this weekend in more than one way. Not only the Hogs on the diamond, but your boy in the game, okay? They're broadcasting gorilla ball, Mr. Gorilla himself.
I can't wait. I can't wait to listen to you on Thursday because I'll be flying with the team to Norman, and I believe what time's your game Thursday? What time's first pitch?
6 o'clock Central.
Okay, I will be in Norman by then, so I'll be dialed in to you as I watch NCAA tournament games, possibly with my favorite beverage in hand. It'd be great. I'm looking forward to it. That is awesome, by the way. I love everything about that. I wish more teams did things like that. I mean, the Hokies, who, by the way, are in my Power 10 this week, spoiler alert, they have the hammer, obviously me, the Hebrew hammer, going to love that. We had the Pink Daddy hat with Tennessee a couple years ago. We need more things like that. Let the kids play. I'm here for all of it. Tommy Tanks wearing that brand new donut chain in the dugout. I mean, that thing is sick. We need more stuff like that. Did you get intel for me?
Yeah, it's just the new home run prop that they're using in the dugout. There's nothing more.
Is it donuts? Like, is that what it is? Is it bat donuts?
No, I just think it's an enlarged, huge linked white chain that is the size of, that is slightly bigger than my forearms and my, these cannons that I'm sporting. But it's massive, okay? It's like me wrapping my arms around Tommy White. That's the size of the chain that he had wrapped around his neck this past weekend. LSU dropping 2 out of 3 in Starkville, by the way, and taking a slight tumble. I've got them as my number 8 team in my Power 10. So Arkansas, Oregon State, Clemson, Vandy, Florida after winning the series over the Aggies. At home, taking the rubber match. Florida State has moved up to number 6 for me. They haven't lost a game. They aren't going to lose a game all year. Okay, Texas A&M is at 7. LSU is at 8, ahead of Duke, who dropped 2 out of 3 to Clemson at home, and then Wake Forest just hanging on at number 10. So,
wow, we have a much different Power 10.
Yes,
we do. Okay,
go ahead.
I mean, finish your diatribe, and I'll hit you with mine.
No, I don't think I do.
Okay.
I mean, just to close the book on Gorilla Ball, and we can put Arkansas behind us, okay? Because Auburn, 114th in batting average nationally. So the Arkansas pitching staff should continue to cook this week. Opponents hitting 269 off of them. That's 144th. That's middle of the pack. Arkansas is going to have more than enough opportunities, to take that Auburn pitching staff to task. An ERA of 5.18, that's 94th. Okay, so just getting in under that 100 mark. Remember Jason Gonzalez, the ace for Auburn, that missed like all of last year and decided to return?
Joseph Gonzalez?
Joseph Gonzalez, yes.
Yes.
He returned, and he is not effective at all. He can't find the strike zone. He is not the guy that Auburn was hoping they would have back. They have so many questions on the Hill. And it would be a huge bounce back for Butch Thompson, of course, the number 1 team in town after getting swept by Vandy. But, my goodness, it's a tall hill to climb for Auburn. But if you're Arkansas, your number 1 team in the land, LSU has faced this, Wake Forest has faced this. Wake Forest is currently enduring this. You got a target on your back bigger than anybody else's. So you're going to get the best from everybody every time out. And it starts with Hagen Smith on the mound Thursday night.
Yeah, totally agree. And by the way, I was texting with the Arkansas baseball SID yesterday because we have been trying to get Hagen Smith on the pod, folks. We have been trying, but here's the thing. Hagen Smith's attitude all year, and this is not negative. I'm not putting a negative knock on Hagen Smith here. I want to put that out there before I say this. All he wants to do is pitch. He will do post-game pressers after he pitches like he's required to do, but other than that, all he wants to do is pitch. So he's asked for no additional media until, as much as he can, until later in the season, until like the SEC tournament time is kind of what the overarching thought is. Hagan has not directly said this, but this is kind of the attitude that they are having with him right now because he's having such a great year, is that they want to just let him be him. And that's okay. I accept that because you know what? He's killing it, and I love watching him pitch. So if we don't get to talk to him until later in the year, that's fine.
Sure. That lines up exactly with what DVH said earlier this morning on Tuesday, jumping in and his weekly presser and media availability, talked about the development of Hagan Smith. And DVH doesn't think people are appreciating enough, actually, what Hagan has been doing this year. It's almost like he's not getting enough credit for what he's been able to do. And it's just been so awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping what he's been able to do every time out on the hill. And he said, Hagan is quiet. He's not a talkative guy. He stays to himself, his demeanor, the way he goes about his preparation on the field, off the field. And, the other players, his teammates, are struggling or working desperately so hard to try and match his approach. So it's like a silent challenge that he issues to his teammates in the way he goes about his business. And DVH said that. He's like, since the end of last year, which didn't end well for Hagan in the Fayetteville Regional at all. But since then, the way he's gone about his business, everybody on this team has worked incredibly hard to try and match it. Nearly a unanimous pick for team captain. Other guys are like, how can we work this hard? How can we perform at such a level that Hagan is? So it's become contagious. 25 home runs too for Arkansas. Only 3 teams in the SEC have less. Okay, now they had 7 this past weekend, but that's Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. So Arkansas near the bottom in batting average, near the bottom in home runs. They had an explosion this past weekend. I expect that to see a significant uptick this week, and I think Gorilla Ball is only going to amplify here in the coming weeks.
So what you're saying is you're going to call some dingers.
I'm going to call some dingers. I'm going to
call
some dingers.
Good.
I'm
good. And then you can talk about it on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers next week.
I'm going to put the D in dinger. Okay. Thanks. Thanks to the Hogs.
There we go. Okay. Here's my Power 10. Arkansas, number 1. You've talked about them at length. 1 run allowed versus Missouri all weekend. They have to be the number 1 team in the country and number 1 in the Power 10. That moves my previous number 1, Texas A&M. I moved them down just 1. The only reason I moved them down only to number 2, yes, they dropped 2 of 3 to Florida, but the only losses were only by 2 runs. They were both competitive games. Braden Montgomery, Gavin Grahovic still both went deep. The bullpen only allowed 5 runs all weekend. Nothing that really made me go, uh-oh. And it was on the road. The only thing that made me go, uh-oh, was take a look at their starting lines from Friday and Saturday. Ryan Prager and Tanner Jones got blasted. Both of them blasted. And we were talking about, I've been talking about at length, how good Max Weiner's done as the new pitching coach for Texas A&M at keeping that ERA as sterling as it was. It's ballooned. They're no longer the best ERA in the country. That's Arkansas. They're now number 2. They're at like 2.65, which is still great. But Prager, Jones, mashed by a really good SEC hitting team in Florida. So we'll see how that translates next weekend for Texas A&M. Number 3, Oregon State, bumped them up 1. They took a road series at a very good Utah team who was 11-4. Already had series wins over Washington and Cal Poly. Travis Bazzana, he finally homered again. I mean, it took him 8 games of not hitting a homer, and then on Sunday he hit 2 bombs in their series finale against Utah. So he now has 8 homers, hitting .461. By the way, taking a peek at the NCAA stats this morning, Schass, a member of the All-Schass squad, Grant Knipp,
14
leads the country with 14 dingers. He passed the official DBU in Drew Burris. He passed him. He's got 14. Drew's got 13.
His home run number is reflective of how many energy drinks and 5-hour energies combined I'm going to consume over the next 5 days.
Nice.
4 days.
By the way, we need to get Grant Knipp on the podcast. That's my goal for next week. Is to next week Grant Knipp on the pod. That's the goal. I'm gonna break the 4th wall. I'm gonna reach out to Campbell's guy. You're gonna reach out to Campbell's guy. We're gonna get Grant Knipp on this pod. All right. He's the epitome of dugouts, dumbbells, and dingers. He really is. We need to have a flex off. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna hit the gym later today. Gotta get my muscles right for that flex off. Number 4 is Florida. They moved up 3 spots for me after their win over Texas A&M. They got some length from Cade Fisher. Finally, he went 6 innings. Now he gave up 6 runs, but 10 Ks, 1 walk. Cags, you mentioned he walked 5 guys on Sunday, but still pretty efficient. The offense is what's going to carry this team, though. Like we've known that. Liam Peterson was bad again. Luke Heyman, Tyler Shellnut, each homered twice this weekend. Florida, you talk about home runs with Arkansas. Florida's got the 7th most homers in the country, and they've already got 42. And that's the 7th most. The leader has 56. It's crazy.
Who has 56?
I had this up. It is.
I got too many tabs, man. I'm
Georgia.
trying.
Georgia's got 56. Tennessee's got 54. Is the top 2 right now. Gotcha. So we've got that. Stand by.
How about Brandon Neely though? This past weekend too against A&M, he went 5 innings in relief, 2 appearances, Friday and Sunday. Came out of the pen, allowed just 1 hit, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks in Sunday's outing, and threw, what is this? Math guy, 79 pitches. I mean, he looked really good, and which that hasn't really, he hasn't been in question, but he delivered. Liam Peterson is still, a spot for sore eyes.
Yes, correct. We need a good start from Liam Peterson in SEC play before we can go, okay, he might have figured it out. Number 5 for me is FSU. They were not previously ranked, but how do we not rank FSU, right? They're 18-0, the only unbeaten in the country. They actually jumped from unranked to number 12 in the rankings this week, which is the highest entry point in the history of the top 25 rankings in college baseball. So that's crazy.
Hashtag Ominoles. Crown them.
Oh, crown them, baby. Crown them. Yeah, I guess Omanos is better than, so you can't do Semin-Omaha. But they have the top average in the country at 364. Their entire starting lineup is hitting better than 298. They're averaging nearly 11 runs per game. Crazy. This offense is nuts. Cam Smith, James Tibbs the 2 of the guys you need to watch for. Smith's hitting 487. James Tibbs, 403. Combined, they have 14 homers and 54 runs batted in. But don't forget about the pitching. Their ERA is the 4th best in the country at 2.94. All 3 of their starters have an ERA under 4. Jamie Arnold, 5-0 with a .33 ERA in 5 starts. Lowest in the nation, duh. 27 2/3 innings, 5 walks to 44 Ks. Cam Leiter, Connor Whitaker also dealing. 8 of their relievers are under 3.2 on their ERA as well. They're just they're completely balanced across the board and being effective. So Florida State into the rankings, into the Power 10 for me this week, number 5. Number 6, I leave Alabama right where they are. They had back-to-back losses in the midweek at Southern Miss and then versus Tennessee but then they won the last 2 games against the Volunteers to win that weekend series. I love this team. I love this Alabama team. I just want to put that out there. Rob Vaughn has made a really fun team to watch. They have a flair for the dramatic. Gage Miller, again, late game, 3-run homer in the 8th inning so that Alabama could win against Tennessee and take the series. Their first SEC opening weekend series win since 2016. Look back at the Frisco Classic, too. DBU in Arizona. Just so many fun games, so many late twisting games for Alabama. They're never out of a single game. I love watching this team, and they're really, really good. They're really, really solid. Vanderbilt, for me, up to number 7 in the Power 10. They've won 13 straight. How can you not love what Tim Corbin has his boys doing right now? Jaden Davis has reached base in all 21 games he's played. Their entire lineup's hitting above 274. Their pitching staff seems to have filled into their roles nicely. Duke drops down to number 8. They dropped 5 spots for me. You forgot to mention for Duke, they also lost at home in the midweek to Rider.
Yeah, they played 2 games, right? Tuesday, Wednesday. And then they came back on Wednesday's game, and I think they scored, let's say, 15 runs in the first inning or something crazy.
They were mad. Yeah, they were mad.
Yeah.
So they lost. Charlie Bielenson, do you see what happened to him on Sunday? He got roughed up.
Yeah, that's
bad.
That's not normal. That doesn't happen to Mr. Bielenson.
2 10th-inning dingers to Jimmy Obertop and Jacob Hinderleiter. Uh-oh. Number 9, the Hokies are into the Power 10 for me. You can't sleep on them anymore. They had their first series win at Louisville since 1995 over the weekend. 14-4 overall. It's their best start since 2012. They are the only ACC baseball team with 5 ACC wins so far this year. They're 5-1 in the conference as their best ever start to ACC play. How about Carson DeMartini, Kyle Schassburger? 12 home runs this year, tied for 3rd most in the nation. They're averaging 348 as a team, 51 homers, 3rd most in the nation. And then on the mound, Brett Renfroe and Griffin Stieg have been excellent as starters for the Hokies. So I'm in on Virginia Tech again. I know you love to be the contrarian and hate on our boy Evan Hughes in the Hokies, but I'm in on Virginia Tech for right now. And number 10, Tennessee stays in the Power 10 for me. They dropped down 2 after losing to Alabama. Wake Forest, LSU, out of the Power 10 for me right now. Clemson and Coastal Carolina were in consideration for my Power 10 this week.
Speaking of Coastal, you talked about the run production from Florida State. So Coastal is the most runs of any team scored to this point. In 20 games, they're averaging 11.65 runs per game. And they've got a midweek game at NC State on Tuesday. NC State got swept by Georgia Tech over the weekend.
They sure did.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Alan Espinal is one of the elixirs for that Vanderbilt offense. SEC Player of the Week following an 8-hit weekend that helped the Commodores sweep Auburn. 8 hits tied for the most in the SEC over the weekend with his teammate Jaden Davis. So you had 2 Commodores each collect 8 hits to start SEC play. 10 hits, walked 5 times, on base, 714 OBP for the entire week. Senior had a multi-hit performance in all 4 games, including a 4-hit game against Auburn on Saturday. He's been one of those bright spots that nobody was really anticipating. Well, nobody thought the Vanderbilt offense would do what they've been doing over the last couple of weeks, but him especially, he certainly has helped to spearhead the offensive onslaught for a team now that it's had SEC, honors over the last 3 weeks. You had Espinal, you had Futrell, who was spectacular on the hill a week ago, and then Camden Kozil, freshman of the week. I mean, they are very balanced and very scary. We'll see. The SEC is just, it's
loaded
league play.
Again.
It's league play. It's a gauntlet for everyone. But Vandy seems to be Vandy again. And they're having to get over the disappointment of last year and losing, winning the SEC tournament, but then losing in their regional the following weekend. So,
I've got 6 SEC teams in my Power 10. I don't know how many you have in yours because ours differed a little bit, but I've got 6 and LSU just dropped out. So that's 7.
I've got 5.
Yeah. So, SEC is king of college baseball. What a shocker.
Yeah. Let's reset our brackets, okay, before we give our hat tips and our dudes, a little social display of affection out the door over the last 10 minutes here. So we talked about our East and South regions. I've got UConn and Duke. I also gave you my West. I've got Bama and UConn meeting in one national semifinal. Coming out of the Midwest, I've got Purdue, okay? I've got Purdue knocking off Creighton in the Elite Eight to punch their ticket to the Final Four. So it'll be Duke and Purdue in the other national semifinal, UConn and Alabama meeting on the left side of the bracket. Championship game, I'm not going to give you my winner yet. We'll save that until the very end. Okay. UConn and Purdue. Huskies and Boilermakers.
So I will say this. We only agree on one Final Four team. It is the UConn Huskies. That's the only one we agree on. Because I have Houston coming out of the South. The West, I have Arizona winning the Caleb Love game over North Carolina to get to the Final Four. In that bracket, by the way, I have Grand Canyon to the Sweet 16, taking out St. Mary and Alabama. I also have New Mexico to the Sweet 16, taking out Clemson and Baylor. How about them apples?
I've got New Mexico also. Richard Pitino, baby. Richard Pitino, Jalen House. Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
He will lose to Arizona in the Sweet 16, but I have them getting there. In the Midwest, I have upsets of Oregon over South Carolina. That's the only one in the first round that I predicted. I went back and forth on McNeese, Gonzaga, and Samford, Kansas. But if Kansas gets their guys back, which they should, I think they'll beat Samford and get on to the next round. Then I have Gonzaga beating Kansas to get to the Sweet 16. I have Creighton beating Oregon and Tennessee and Purdue to get to the Final Four. I'm in on the Blue Jays, baby.
Greg McDermott.
Give me Greg McDermott in the Final Four against the Houston Cougars. And then I've got
I love some Cougars.
Yeah, I know you do.
Love me some
Cougars.
Cougars.
We've got UConn and Houston in the national championship game playing to cut it down in Arizona because UConn knocks out Arizona in their own state. Deadly. Because the Final Four is in Glendale, baby.
Yep, Glendale.
Yep.
All right. So you've got UConn and
Houston.
And
You
I've
have
got
UConn and Purdue.
And
All right, so we both have 2 number 1 seeds in the national championship game.
All right, championship pick coming up in a few minutes.
Yep.
Let's do some dudes. Who's your dude?
Okay. I've already prefaced him, but give me Carson DiMartini. And I have some audio to play for Carson DiMartini. Spoiler alert, I dropped the ball. I forgot to edit it and send it to Schass to play live on the pod. I'll insert it into the recording. So we've got some Carson DiMartini audio, because here's what he did this past week. 5 homers in 24 hours for Carson DiMartini. 5 in a day. 5 homers in 24 hours for DiMartini. Here is what one of them sounded like on St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you very much, Evan Hughes, making an appearance.
Yes, Evan Hughes on the Virginia Tech Sports Network from Learfield.
Yeah, in 3D on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers.
Yes, indeed. So Carson DiMartini this entire week, 7 homers, 10 runs, 11 runs batted in, a 600 average this past week for the ACC Player of the Week honors, D1 National Player of the Week honors as well. He's averaging 1 homer every 5.5 at-bats is Carson DiMartini. That's pretty good. Virginia Tech, by the way, has the most homers per game in the country at 2.83. So there's my dude of the week.
Okay, my dude is going to be Caleb Williams, because welcome to Chicago, my man. Wash my hands of Justin Fields. Look, appreciate your service. I love you, but thank you for providing some closure. Really, the dude should be Ryan Poles, our general manager, and pulling the string. And I know people are like, oh, we only got a 6th-round pick. It's conditional. It can be as high as a 4th, depending on playing time. But the quarterback
you
market,
didn't get enough.
The quarterback market dried up too quickly with Wilson going first to Pittsburgh and then Cousins going to Atlanta. Look, we could have acted faster, sure. We could have waited for a team to get desperate closer to the draft. Okay. But let's not forget that we got Keenan Allen earlier in the week for a 4th-round draft pick. Look at what some of the other quarterbacks are going for, like Sam Howell going to Seattle for a 4th-round draft pick. You weren't going to get much more than maybe a 3rd or a 4th-rounder. It's conditional 6. It is what it is. Like, in polls, I trust, as a Bears fan that has just been so emotionally, downtrodden and just tortured for so long. Okay, Patriots fan, like, you have Super Bowls, okay? The Super Bowl that the Bears hang their hat on came 3 years before I was born, okay? So I am in desperate need, okay, of a franchise-changing quarterback. And we learned in 3 years Justin Fields was not that. Again, gave us some phenomenal moments, made Bears games fun to watch again. However, there was a ceiling, and his development was not there. Now, he was dealt a shit sandwich because he didn't have any weapons when he walked into the whole thing, and you had a different coach, and you had 3 different coordinators in 3 years, or whatever it was. But Caleb Williams is going to walk into a situation that is not what Justin walked into. It's not what any quarterback in the history of the Bears franchise has ever walked into. So, give me the bona fide number 1 dude off the board, best quarterback out there. Caleb Williams, come on down. And now we have closure. Now we can move forward. Now we can stop dragging this out, and we know who we're rolling with. Bear down, baby. Undefeated, Super Bowl. We'll see you. CW13.
I am ready for the Patriots to draft Jaden Daniels as the number 3 overall pick. I'm ready for it. I want it. I would love to get Marvin Harrison, but I think Washington's going to take him at number 2. So we'll see. Marvin Harrison Jr. I should put that out there. My hat tip, I have 2. 1, Mark Kingston, the head coach of South Carolina. You get a hat tip, and I sent this video to you, Schass. I'll repost it later. Our boy, Kingston, took a ball in the chest mid-interview with ESPN, whatever they were on.
It was the midweek game.
Midweek game. Whatever network they were on. Boy was getting interviewed, had a headset on, and took a ball right to the chest and just kept right on talking.
Didn't flinch.
A Warrior hat tip to Mark Kingston, the head coach of South Carolina. Well done there. My second hat tip, another video I also sent to you, goes to Kyle Hannon of Penn State, because holy pimp job. My God. And yeah, he got ejected. I know. Stupid. Let him play. But that pimp job was elite for the Penn State guy, Kyle Hannon. So I got to give him a hat tip for that.
Yeah, it was so good that I want to make him give him the hat tip as well. Okay. Because this is co-hat tip honors. I mean, to pimp a home run in that way, to walk, to stare it down, and then to just fling the bat like a Frisbee. I don't think that made it to the dugout. I think it made it to the 10th row. The camera kind of cut off, but I mean, my goodness.
I heard it
that
went
dude,
to Philadelphia. I heard it flew. Yeah.
So this guy, Kyle Hannon, of course, naturally, I got to pull up his player page. Senior, out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 5'10", 186, fire hydrant-like qualities, bar fight meter through the roof. And he's a guy that steals bags. He doesn't necessarily hit home runs. He had 7 last year. Trying to see what he's at so far this season. That was his first home run of the year, just his 12th career home run in State College. Yes. And he did not act like he had been there before, and naturally, he really hasn't. So I don't blame him. But the stocky young fellow, the speedster, got himself a big fly, and celebrated accordingly, and promptly got tossed. So good for him.
Yeah, shouldn't have gotten tossed. Bad move there. Let him have fun. But yeah, good job for Kyle Hannon on the bat flip and the pimp job. Well done.
All right, social
SDA.
Displays of affection. Southern Miss, I sent you this video on Tuesday night when they knocked off Alabama. I think it was 9-7 the final score. And then they swept Marshall this past weekend. But on Tuesday night in Hattiesburg, they had the Crimson Tide in town. Just a phenomenal choreographed light show with the blinking lights and the overhead view. The bird's eye view from the heavens, if you will, looking down on Pete Taylor Ballpark. It was heroic. It was stoic. It was amazing. It got in all the feels. How can you not be romantic about baseball? So I love that video. Southern Miss, by the way, this past weekend with Marshall on Saturday, the middle game, a combined no-hitter until the 8th inning from both teams. Oh, wow. Nobody had a hit until the 8th inning.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Sunbelt, the Fun Belt is back, baby.
Wow.
So back. I love it. Okay.
Oh, and I know you're going to Central Florida here. Did you see the rocket that was taking off during that game? And they got the camera on just a fireball that was soaring through the sky between Oklahoma State and UCF over the weekend. I don't know if it was Friday night or Saturday night, but it's just a massive burning fireball that was a rocket that took off at nearby Cape Canaveral, just soaring through the air. That video is must watch. That is phenomenal. But I know you're more interested in the uniforms.
Well, I'm going to go find that because that's really cool. But yeah, did you see the space uniforms that UCF wore this week?
Yeah,
oh, clean job. Well done to the University of Central Florida. If you haven't seen them, we'll retweet all of this stuff. We got the Southern Miss drone shot. We got the UCF space uniforms. We got Mark Kingston getting dinged in the chest. We got Kyle Hannon bat flip. We're doing it all. We'll put it out there on Thursday after this pod drops. No teasers for you fools. Okay, you got to wait till Thursday because we have basketball dropping today. It dropped on Tuesday with Stephen Hartzell, Matt Norlander, and then the Gower Hour with Rob Joyce and Megan Gower. Which, by the way, a extra hat tip to Megan Gower, who got 66 of 68 teams right in the women's field.
We should we have picked a women's bracket too? I feel bad now. Are we going to get shamed? Are we going to get canceled?
Okay. I don't know if we'll get canceled. We'll definitely get shamed. Who's your winner? Pick your winner right now.
LSU.
Women's team. LSU.
LSU.
Okay.
Back to back.
I'll take South Carolina.
Okay. UConn and Purdue. My title game. I'm going with Purdue.
I'm going with UConn.
From ruin to redemption, much like Virginia after losing as a 1 seed to a 16. The following year, they won the national championship.
It's going to happen again? It's going to happen again?
Purdue's going to pull off the same fate. Yes.
No. Dan Hurley, back to back. The Huskies are too good, man. They're too good. They are unreal. How good?
Yeah, but they don't. Is Caravan going to be able to stop Edey? I mean, Zach Edey's an alien.
Zach Edey can't shoot free throws.
He's an alien, man.
They'll hack him at the foul line. It's fine.
Okay, I know this is dropping Thursday, but I'm going to ECU tonight. 10th ranked Pirates are playing at Elon.
That's right.
So I'm going to take in some live baseball. Carter Cunningham, 18-game hitting streak for the Pirates.
Wow.
He's going to put that on display against the Phoenix, who have won 7 straight. The Pirates after a sweep of Columbia this past weekend. So looking forward to that one. The team's hitting 300. I mean, and they're very balanced. Pitching is there near the top of the AAC. Haven't played a league game yet, but right there in strikeouts and opponent batting average and 215 Ks this staff. So going to get eyeballs on the Pirates here taking on Elon. Never been. You've been to Elon, right? Didn't you call a Wake game at Elon?
I called a Wake loss at Elon last year.
Yeah.
Very nice contained ballpark, Latham Park. Smaller, but like there's a foresty vibe to it. You'll see when you go. It's very nice.
You have any?
By the way, make sure you look up the actual address of Latham Park because it's in Burlington, not in Greensboro, like I accidentally did last year. All I did in Google Maps was type in Latham Park, and I pulled up to this random neighborhood, and there's no Latham Park. I'm like, where the fuck am I? Wrong spot. So I like Google it. I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the wrong area. I was still 50 minutes away, and I was so late getting there. I had like 20 minutes until first pitch to get all set up, and it was awful. But whatever, they lost anyways.
I stepped on your toes. Give me your championship.
I did. UConn.
Oh, that's right. UConn. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to read Pudge's. Pudge has Texas over Illinois, which I love.
That's not impossible.
No,
like that could happen in a crazy world.
You got anything else to add? Because I have a UCSB note, kind of somber, but we need to give props.
We do. Just my lineup card. We'll detail that quickly. There were 3 midweek games I was watching that have already happened. If you're listening to this on Thursday, NC State versus Coastal Carolina. We mentioned DBU at Oklahoma. Fun game that I'll definitely be dialed into because West Virginia's going there this weekend, and so am I. And then Boston College and Northeastern. More Wang Bangs. I'm ready for more Wang Bangs.
Wang Bangs.
Yes. And they're playing their bitter rival in Northeastern, who's always makes it a fun game when they take on their interstate foes. On the weekend, of course, we've got our boy Kyle Schassburger live in person, Arkansas at Auburn, Thursday through Saturday. Other Thursday through Saturday series, A&M and Mississippi State. Mississippi State. I mean, listen, they're Chris Lemonis trying to figure it out. Okay, don't sleep on the Bulldogs. LSU and Florida on Friday. Duke at NC State. Bama at Georgia. Tennessee and Ole Miss, FSU at Clemson, which if Clemson beats FSU, they will be in the Power 10. Just putting that out there. And which, by the way, I do think Clemson gets at least one against Florida State. I think they lose one this weekend for the first time.
Florida State's not losing again, okay?
You said that. I wrote it down. You were wrong. You had Florida State losing to Florida in the midweek, and they didn't. They beat the Gators in Gainesville, okay? So you're 1-1 on your surefire locks of the week. So we'll see what happens. Also, Vandy at South Carolina, fun series to watch as well.
Overcorrection. Picked FSU to lose. They didn't. Now I'm saying they're never going to lose another game. So 56.
It's what you do.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Okay, UCSB. I shared this with you. We'll end the pod here today. Early in the week, their Tuesday game at home against UNLV when they were debuting those fancy Isla Vista uniforms. They didn't get put into action because the game was canceled before it had started. Did a little bit of digging. It was sparse, the information online. But what happened was Andrew Checketts, the head coach for the Gauchos, his father, Gordon Checketts, actually passed away in the stands before the game was beginning. So he did not coach this past weekend. Acting head coach was Matt Fonno, one of the assistants. UCSB was able to sweep their weekend series. They've won 7 in a row. They're 12-5, and they have since dedicated this season in loving memory of obviously their head coach's father, Andrew Checketts' dad, Gordon Checketts, who passed away before their midweek game on Tuesday. I mean, just wild stuff.
That's terrible.
And they created in one of the stories I saw, they created a little placard in loving memory of Gordon Checketts. They put it on his seat, with flowers for the weekend. So, just hard to compartmentalize and move forward after that one. But the team did valiantly. And they're dedicating the entire season to their head coach's pop. So
that is props to them. Yeah, props to them for that. That is a very sad story, and I certainly, our thoughts are certainly with all of them right now. That's incredibly tough to go through. I do want to get one more thing in here because I think this is something that you would like to give your thoughts on, Schass, as a very major connoisseur of proper etiquette at the gym.
Yes, lay it on me. Get it off your chest.
I experienced 2 things this past week at the gym that were mind-boggling to me that I think you need to hear about. So the first one you've actually experienced before, and I know you hate it, but I was waiting for a machine for about 20 minutes because some dude was literally sitting there having a phone call while sitting on the machine. Not even like he would just do a couple reps and then go back on the phone. I'm like, bro, get off the machine. Like, what are we doing here? And like not even just on his headset. Like, guy's holding his phone. That's why you wear headphones, guy, so you can work out. If you're gonna have a phone call, at least freaking use the machine. This guy was just plopping down and talking for about 20 minutes. Was
this at Planet or LA? Did you say?
No, LA. This is at LA. Both of these were at LA. So that one, it's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again. This second one, inexcusable. Cannot happen again. So I'm in the locker room at LA, and I go use the bathroom. So I go in the back part of the locker room, and I, do my thing. I got to go wash my hands. Well, I can't wash my hands because I walk out to the two sinks that are opposing each other, and there are two dudes changing at the sink, and all of their clothes are spread out all over the sink. Just like right there in the bathroom area, not in the area in the locker room where there are other sinks where you have much more room to spread out your clothes. But these two dudes are down to their briefs, and they've just got all their clothes spread out on both sinks. And I can't even get to a sink to wash my hands. So I sit there kind of waiting for a minute, not knowing what to do. Guy finally notices me and moves part of his clothes over so I can use the sink. But like, what are we doing here? There is a locker room portion designed for you to go change. Go there and do it. I don't want to touch the fucking sink now because you have been there spreading all your dirty ass clothes all over the sink. That's not sanitary. It's disgusting. I'm over it.
That's 2 F-bombs out of Kahn on this edition of Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. I love it. You're not wrong. However, there are the other sinks. So while the other gentlemen should have chosen to use those sinks and spread their clothes out, thankfully they were just spreading their clothes and not spreading eagle in front of you while you're trying to wash your hands. But yeah, that's a bad beat right there. But at least they had their briefs on too as well, because those locker rooms can they get a little slippery, get a little dark.
I mean, I went out and used the other sink, by the way. I didn't.
Okay. All right.
Whatever, we're done. But yeah,
the phone call thing. So a true measuring stick in your gym etiquette or personal development at the gym. The next step for you is to make sure you actually confront this man, and whether you do it respectfully or angrily is up to you. I only know one way. However, for you to stand there and be like, excuse me, how many more sets do you have? That's what you next got to get in your repertoire to at least put this guy on notice so he's thinking and realizes, because he's obviously oblivious to you right there and him inconveniencing every other gym member who might be trying to use that piece of equipment. So he needs to know. He needs to be taught a lesson. You've got to let this gentleman or this, lack of an individual, this sorry excuse of a human being who is trying to lift and have a phone call and just take up time on a machine while not even utilizing it. He's not even getting his gains in. Okay, he's disrespecting the gains. You need to let him know that he is, in turn, at the same time, disrespecting you and everybody else. So, all right, you'll get better.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. That's the next step for me.
You could choose a diplomatic approach. I would do so maybe with a little bit more hostility. But I've been in these moments enough, so I'm more battle tested. But yeah, sure. You just need to bring it to his attention. Let me know how that goes.
All right, that's all I got.
All right, follow my next at SportsCon4. I'm at Kyle Schass. Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers and 3D will be back following weekend 6 in college baseball on the Diamond. Kahn is off to Norman. I'm off to Auburn. You can listen to us if you'd like on the Varsity Network app, as well as all the March Madness coverage, men's and women's basketball. Be sure to do that. Until then, bye.